Hello and welcome to the Vinyl Sanctuary. My name is Christian and I hope that you will join me in taking refuge in records. So I'm here today with part 3 of my Side 1 Track 1 Top 100 series, and today I'm going to be looking at my picks, which are from, and I'll just double check so I don't get that wrong. It's easy to lose your track on this sort of thing when it's being done over quite a long period of time. Yeah, number 80 to 71. So they're the picks that we're going to be looking at today in my own top 100. So for anybody who has tuned in to date and played along with your top hundreds and posted them in the comments for me and other people to take a look at, thank you so much. It's been brilliant to see the various music tastes of people out there who've been checking in with me and watching the channel and keeping up to date with what I've been up to. So we'll get right into part 3 now. So same as before, there'll be another 10 records here to show, 10 songs to talk about that I think are brilliant opening tracks, hence them being in the final 100 of the many that I had the opportunity to pick from. And if you need to catch up on parts 1 and 2, then I have popped links to those videos in the description box to this video that you're watching now. So part 1 in particular will give you, the groundwork, if you will, of why I'm doing this particular series and some rules I've put upon myself as to how I've gone about choosing. And then part 2, of course, is just a continuation of what I started out in part 1. So already we're up to part 3, so we'll crack on. Okay, so kicking us off then today, I've got a great song here, great opener, from an album that came out in 1988. So this one takes me right back to childhood. It's a song that I have just great memories of. I'm pretty sure the first time I would have heard it would probably have been on the radio, or maybe potentially on Top of the Pops or something, perhaps on a rerun or something when I got a little bit older, because I was only 6 years old when this came out. So I don't think I would have remembered it at the time, but I certainly, was listening to this in the very, very early 1990s when I would have been a little bit older. So it's for me, a very jaunty song, very memorable, hook-laden pop masterpiece in my opinion, great lyrics throughout, lovely hushed vocal delivery by the male singer in the group, and then these lovely la la la's by the female singer. And it was those la's in particular that opened the song up that I remember being really drawn to as a child the first time I heard it, thinking that it just sounded almost angelic, really, just a lovely tone to a voice, and then this really jaunty, bouncy music underneath it. So yeah, a song that I fell in love with very early on in my life, and a song that I continue to love to this day. So the song I'm talking about is The King of Rock and Roll, and the band is Prefab Sprout, who are from the northeast, I should say, so in the UK. And the album is From Langley Park to Memphis. So as I mentioned, it came out in 1988. And it's just a great, great way to kick off what is an excellent album overall. In fact, the first 3 songs here, one of those albums I would say that's got like a brilliant opening trilogy or trinity of songs. So King of Rock and Roll, Cars and Girls, which is a homage to Bruce Springsteen. And then I Remember That. It's just a beautiful song that I think deals in nostalgia and, memories and the importance of them, how wonderful it is to hark back to something that's happened in your life. But I'm already losing track because I've promised myself in this series that I only want to focus on the opening songs on these albums. I'm already getting ahead of myself and we're not even past the first song in this part yet. So I'm going to rein myself back in. So yeah, the King of Rock and Roll, let's get back to the subject. As I mentioned, very poppy, very bouncy. It's got this iconically catchy chorus, hot dog, jumping frog, Albuquerque. As soon as you hear that and the way that it's delivered by the brilliantly named Paddy McAloon, it's just one of the ultimate earworms. I think it just sticks in your head. You can hear it any time of day, in my opinion, any time of night, any part of the year, whatever season it happens to be, and it just puts a smile on my face. That's the relationship that I've always had with the song. So The King of Rock and Roll, if you don't happen to know it, please do check it out. It's just a great pop song from the 1980s. Big hit for the band as well, so it did have crossover appeal. And my favourite part of the song is right at the very, very end, when the word Albuquerque is sung in this very, very deep baritone voice. It just always makes me smile the way that they threw that final Albuquerque in there. But yeah, the vocals of Wendy Smith on the track are lovely, really are. And then you've got the brilliant rhythm section here of Martin McAloon, Paddy's brother, and then Neil Conti on drums there as well. So yeah, great band Prefab Sprout, and I think a really great way to get this part kicked off. Okay. You'll have to excuse me as well if I'm doing a lot of this today and all this kind of stuff. I'm not being jittery. It's just very, very warm here again at the Vinyl Sanctuary. We're in that time of year at the moment that I'm recording these videos where it is very, very hot here in the northwest of England, and let's just say that I'm not overly used to it where I live. So when the heat does come, I do find myself struggling a little bit with it, so I'm going to try and power through, do my very best. But if you're wondering why my cheeks might look a bit red or anything like that, then it's just because I'm dealing with the heat. Okay, so I shall crack on. All right, so the next pick then, actually the next two picks I've got coming up are both from the year 1998, and I would say that both of these songs, terrific openers, that's a given, that's why they're here for me. But they are both very much alternative rock music, I would say. Groups that both had, I would say, kind of folky elements as well, but just both concocted very unique sounds. And these two albums that are coming up as well are both brilliant. So the first of the two albums here, the first track, is a band from the UK. And they were huge favourites of the legendary British DJ John Peel. He was a massive champion of this group. And I think they were described once as like the biggest small band in the UK or something like that. I am paraphrasing there. I'm wholly expecting to have not remembered that quite correctly. But yeah, they were basically a big little band. They were very critically acclaimed, excellent lyrics throughout by their frontman who's Darren Hayman. So for anyone now who knows this band, they're going to know immediately who I'm talking about. Great lyricist, a very, very unique sounding vocalist, I would say, as well. There are people that I know that have not maybe sort of taken to his vocal style, but I've never ever had an issue with it. I think he's an excellent singer in my opinion, because he's got a lot of character and heart in his voice, and I also think he's got great diction as well. He's got such brilliant lyrics, but I never ever struggle to hear what he's singing. His words are very clearly pronounced and enunciated, and you really do get the whole feel of a song that he's performing, because a lot of them are very narrative driven. So yeah, I just think these are a terrific group, and I've got a lot of love and a lot of time for them. So the song coming up now is called The Hymn for the Cigarettes, and I'll talk about that in a little bit more detail in a moment. The band is Hefner, and the album is The Fidelity Wars. So for anybody who might not be sure of Hefner, and I'm thinking, perhaps people who maybe live outside the UK potentially. I'm not really sure if Hefner made a mark overseas. I sincerely hope that they did, maybe in Europe perhaps, but I'm not sure if they did in the US. But Hefner are a group that I would say, if you're into the likes of the Violent Femmes, I hear quite a lot of their influence in these grooves. Even a little bit of Modern Lovers and stuff like that as well. Maybe not quite as distorted and loud overall as the Modern Lovers, but I do hear some similarities there. I'd say the Violent Femmes is probably a fairly safe comparison, but I just think that Hefner are just a group to check out in their own right. I've loved them for many, many, many years now, and any opportunity I ever get to talk about them or to get people into them, I will always take that opportunity to do so. So The Hymn for the Cigarettes, this is the opening track off an album that's got a lot of very personal meaning for me. I've got a very deep connection to this record, and very similar to the album Pink Flag by Wire. This was an album that I turned to a lot when I was in a great place in my life. Let's just say several years ago. Well over a decade or so ago now. But this was an album that I did turn to a lot, found very comforting, and one of those albums that for me now, I just can't ever imagine being without it in terms of listening to it and enjoying it over and over again. So The Hymn for the Cigarettes is a song which uses the device, should we say, the narrative of various cigarette brands representing moments in the singer's life. So I'm pretty sure it's autobiographical He's basically using cigarettes to convey to the listener, that when he was smoking this particular brand, he was doing this thing, or when he gave up this brand, he was doing that thing. So quite a novel approach for a song. It has got some pretty strong guitar crunch in there. Lovely bass line to it. As I mentioned before about Darren Hayman's vocal style, you can hear everything being said very clearly. He does have a distinctive accent, a southern English accent when he sings, but again, for anybody who may be from overseas listening, I don't think they're going to have any issues whatsoever hearing what he's saying and what it is that he's trying to get out there. But just a brilliant storyteller and a really fine band. So they're quite lo-fi. Please don't be expecting, glossy production values or anything like that, or lots and lots of overdubs or string arrangements or anything like that. It's pretty stripped back stuff. But if you're really into your alternative guitar music, then I really think Hefner would be a band to check out. And that opening song, The Hymn for the Cigarettes, is just superb. My favourite lyric on there is when he's singing about how can she love me if she doesn't even love the cinema that I love. Yeah, it's just a great line. That it's one that I always come back to. Hope I've remembered that correctly there in the moment. Don't think there's a lyric sheet on this one, so it's one of those, isn't it? You can hear a song so many times in your life, and then when you're saying it on camera and you've got the pressure to make sure that you're saying it correctly to an audience, you doubt yourself. Well, at least I do. But yeah, that's just such a great line because cinema is a crucial thing, I think. Certainly for me, whenever I meet people, like-minded people who are into the same films as me and that sort of thing, then you always feel like you've made a true connection with somebody. So I just always found that line in the song in particular to be a real heavy hitter. Got some emotional heft to it. So that's Hefner there with the Fidelity Wars, and the song there, the opening track, is The Hymn for the Cigarettes. Okay. So moving on then. So we're still in 1998, moving over to the US now. So we've been in the UK. So we had the King of Rock and Roll a little earlier there with Prefab Sprout. So we've now got another king, a very different type of king and a very different type of band. So this group here, I did read once, which really did make me laugh. I can't remember the source, I'm afraid, so I hold my hand up to that. But I definitely did read it somewhere because, and the reason it stuck in my mind is just because I thought it was such a clever summary of how this band sounds. So the phrase that I read, the description was something like a Salvation Army band gone awry. And I remember reading that and thinking that's pretty on the money. That is a really good summary of what this group sound like. So they're a group that are very, very critically acclaimed. I'd say definitely more well known than Hefner. I would argue that just because this album in particular has gone down as one of those all-time great albums, and rightly so. It is a brilliant album. So again, quite folky sort of leanings to it, but there's a lot of fuzz and distortion in places here. A very varied use of instrumentation. Some almost quite exotic, quite out there instruments, which really do enrich the sound of what this group are all about. Again, a very, very distinctive vocalist. So yeah, I'm beginning to kind of feel some connections here between Hefner and this group. That hadn't occurred to me prior to coming on camera, but again, very distinctive vocalist. Again, might not be everybody's cup of tea in the way that in which he sings, but for me, I've always enjoyed his voice. There's a lot of power to it, I would say as well. I mean, when I try singing along, and I like to think of myself as being, someone who can definitely hold a tune, but there is some real power, the way that he can hold a note and, the way that he expresses himself. So the singer I'm talking about is Jeff Mangum. The band is Neutral Milk Hotel, and the album is In the Aeroplane Over the Sea. So there we go. So that is a very, very, very famous album cover now. There may be people who have even seen this album cover and maybe haven't even listened to the record. This does pop up in a lot of all-time great album polls, the best of the 90s, best alternative albums, greatest albums of all time. I'm sure it's one of those that, 1001 albums you must hear before you die. I don't have that publication or anything, but I'm pretty sure that it is in there. So Yeah, that's my copy of it. So repress that one. The Hefner one is actually an original from 1998, so I'm really pleased to have that one. That's on the two pure label, but this one here is a nice repress of In the Aeroplane Over the Sea. I think it came out in like the early 2000s or something like that. So I was really pleased to get a hold of it. So yeah, the opening song, I should say, yeah, prattling on there, but I've not told you the name of the song. So the opening song is called The King of Carrot Flowers Part 1. So it automatically goes into parts 2 and 3 straight after. So it's a bit of an epic, but you know, I'm keeping the rules and regs here in place. I'm not counting parts 2 and 3 because technically that doesn't count as being the opening track. Track 1, the opening track here is just part 1. So in terms of the description of the song, it's just weird. Is probably the word to use. It's a very weird and a very odd song, and I can't remember exactly when the first time would have been that I'd heard it. And come to think of it, I can't even remember the first time that I heard him for the cigarettes. Might have been at a friend's house, someone over in Warrington, I think it probably would have been, who was a fan of Hefner. But as for Neutral Milk Hotel, I don't know whether I heard them in potentially a club or something, but then I don't ever recall the clubs that I frequented where these were on rotation. So I don't honestly know where I heard it, but I just remember being just completely drawn in by it the very first time I heard it. The lyrics were just so strange and weird, and I was trying to figure out what on earth was going on in the song itself. It just has this really catchy melody to it, very simple. It's almost, I think it's just like an F, B flat, C, B flat sort of arrangement to it from memory, something like that. And just simple chords. I'm sure someone will correct me on that if they know the song, and please do, because I'm just talking pure off the top of my head. I can, I play it on the guitar every now and again when I'm in the mood to, and it's almost got like quite a romantic sort of a feel to it, but just also very skewed, and one of those songs that I think you're either going to get it or you don't. And I think because it's laying the foundation for an album that is rather weird but also rather wonderful, I think that was why this opening track had to go in my top 100, because it just sows the seeds for what is about to come. And I've used that phrase quite often during this series already, but for me, that's what a great opening song should do. It should give you some insight into what you're about to experience within the wider realm of the album. But sometimes opening tracks can be red herrings, or they can kind of lead you in a different direction. But for this one, it definitely does set the tone, and then that continues throughout the duration of the record. So please do give this one a listen, The King of Carrot Flowers Part 1. Please do give the whole album a listen as well. I won't natter on too much about it, not just because it's not an album ranking thing, but just because loads has been written and said about this album already. But I do really love that opening track. Like I say, very unusual lyrics, great vocal performance on it by Jeff Mangum. Lovely little bits right towards the end where like an accordion swells in. And it's only a couple of minutes long, that track as well, so it's kind of there, and then it does its thing, and then it builds into parts 2 and 3 of that song. So that was my next pick there, King of Carrot Flowers Part 1 by Neutral Milk Hotel. Okay, so next pick then, we're still in the 1990s, but we're moving away from 1998. We're now going back to 1994. Got a group here that were pivotal, linchpins of the trip hop movement that was going on here in the UK back at that time. And let's just say the central hub of that entire scene was Bristol, in England. So these guys are absolute legends. And I'm trying to remember where I would have heard it for the first time before I show the track off. I'm sure people by now might have already guessed what it'll be. I think it was on, I remember hearing it was on very late at night, and it was on television. And I'm pretty certain it was, I think it was some kind of documentary on BBC Two that I was watching. And this music, the instrumental, like the introduction of it basically just kept popping in at various sections of the program. And it's that drum beat, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, this very sort of almost like militaristic but futuristic drum pattern that was going on. which just instantly caught my ear every time there was like a lull in the program I was watching. Then this sort of weird theremin sound was coming in, so it's like very sci-fi sounding. Again, futuristic, almost like being sort of beamed in from another world or something. And then all these like woo noises and like these like tinkly sort of like spidery guitar parts as well, almost like a bit spy movie-ish, very 60s kind of guitar work, quite psychedelic. And when you put all those parts together, or at least for me, for the music that I love, I was just hypnotized by the song. And I do remember it being one of the few occasions where I've heard something and I immediately wanted to go and just find out what on earth I'd listened to. So with it being, really late at night and watching it on the telly, I couldn't, just run down to the shop and find it or anything. But I did I did toil to find out what that was. I think eventually I might have tried to find it on the, maybe the credits of the program at the very end or something. But yeah, I'm so glad that I discovered that track in the way that I did, because it was just such an unexpected thing. I wasn't looking for it, but the song, in a sense, found me, and it's been there in my life ever since. So I don't think it had been out very long either. It might even have been '94 that I was watching the program. To be fair, it makes sense, wouldn't it? Because I've been listening to this thing for decades. So yeah, lovely, beautiful song. So the song is called Mr. Ons, which again has a very sort of alien, spacey kind of connection to it. The band is Portishead, and the album is Dummy. And this is an absolute masterpiece of trip hop. This one, it is a great album all the way through. But Mr. Ons in particular, and I've not even mentioned Beth Gibbons' vocal performance on it yet. Spoken a lot about the music side. So all the tracks are produced by Portishead, and Adrian Utley there is the guitar. He was contributing the guitar parts, and just doing an amazing job. And then Jeff Barrow, of course, is in Portishead as well, along with Beth Gibbons, and his work just in terms of sound, the use of like reverb and all these percussive elements are discussed. It just brings you into this very mesmerizing world. So please do give Dummy a try. Maybe if you're not much of a trip hop fan, but if you're looking for something quite soothing, quite calming, then listen to this album. But do dip your toe in with Mr. Ons as that opening track. I don't think you'll be disappointed with that one. Okay, so let's just see how many I've got left to do on this part. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, right, 5, 6. So I've already done 4 then. So we're almost at the halfway point. So I might as well just get my little thank you in now, because I do tend to do that. I know my videos do have length to them. So if you're enjoying my part here so far, after the first 4 have shown, then thank you very much indeed for sticking here with me. I really appreciate it, and I hope that you continue to enjoy the 6 I've got left to show. We'll just double check it is indeed 6. I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah, it is. Okay. Right, so this next one then is, and this is quite an achievement for me, to be fair. Because when I was corresponding very recently with a very, very, very dear friend of mine, and she was asking me about some of my picks and stuff. Not any spoilers or anything, but wanting to know where most of my songs were landing in terms of decade. And I quite honestly wrote, because I put the list together a good bit before I started recording, that I didn't think I had any picks after the 1990s, because the vast majority of my record collection, does sort of go at an absolute push up to the early noughties, but there's very little from that era there. My music is 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s predominantly. But I have got a song here from 2009. So I'm going to say a very quick apology there now to my dear friend, because I told her in with quite a lot of confidence that I'd only gone up to the 90s for my picks, but no, that's not the case. And it was a very daft mistake of me to have made, because I absolutely adore this song, and I must have just had a blank when we were in correspondence and just hadn't remembered the year it had come out. So yeah, 2009. But this is an artist who's been going for a long, long time. Sadly, no longer with us. One of my favourite guitar players, a bit of a guitar hero in the post-punk world, goth, alternative rock. Can play any kind of style really. He's done bluesy stuff, country influenced stuff, psychedelic stuff, you name it. This guy could play it and just looked absolutely cool. Very, very cool looking. Cigarette always dangling from his mouth, very tall, very sort of angular looking, always had a great haircut, and could really just make that guitar make the most beautiful of noises and the most quite frightening of noises as well. So we've got a track here where this is a very beautiful song. I've always likened it to almost sounding quite like the Jesus and Mary Chain. It does have that sort of Mary Chain vibe to it, but like with a bit of a girl group influence in there as well, which the Mary Chain did take influence from there. And I also feel as well like it's kind of got Nancy and Lee type influences on it as well. It's almost like if Nancy and Lee went alternative rock, then maybe it would sound like this. So the song is called I Know a Girl Called Johnny. The album is Pop Crimes and the artist is Roland S. Howard. So brilliant photo there of Roland. Sees my guitar hero I was just talking about. Obviously made his name originally alongside Nick Cave, in the Boys Next Door. Then the Birthday Party, of course, as well. So, and then, he's gone on to have an amazing career, been involved in loads and loads of projects. Crime and City Solution being one of them. But everything he's done, I would say, is worth investigating. He's Immortal Souls as well. And yeah, this guy is just, he is just brilliant. I come back to his music so much. I really, really do. So, and I Know a Girl Called Johnny. It's just this lovely, lovely introduction to this album and to Roland's world. It's I think it's his second album that he put out just under his own name, and the duet is being performed with Janine Standish, I believe her name is, and I believe she is the Johnny of the title. So it's they are singing to one another. I do believe she's Australian as well. Certainly, I think from listening to her accent on the recording, Roland being Australian, of course, as well. And it's just got very hypnotic lyrics. It's very sensual. It's got a very seductive sound to it, but there's almost like quite a dangerous vibe to the song as well. He sings about Johnny being his narcotic lollipop. She talks about putting her fingers in his mouth. There's quite full-on imagery in the track, but it's just delivered in this very beautifully paced tune. It just sort of, it's quite densely layered, and it just kind of takes its time to do its thing. I mean, it's not an overly long track, but it's just got this lovely, bass line sort of gently pulsing away in the background. Very, as I mentioned, quite sort of spectre-ish girl group percussion going on. And then just very, very nice, gentle guitar parts by Roland S. Howard. In places, some of the guitar work does sound very similar to Darklands era Jesus and Mary Chain. So if from that description you're liking the sound of what I'm telling you about, and some of the influences I've mentioned, then please do give that track, I Know a Girl Called Johnny, a listen. It's a brilliant, brilliant song, and that is a truly, truly great album, that Pop Crimes. So yeah, all the best there, and to Roland S. Howard, and to all the amazing work that he did in his lifetime. Real true guitar pioneer, him. One of the greats for me. Okay, so moving on then to the next pick. We're going all the way back here now to 1982, and this is just a great example of an album and an opening song in particular. After all, I'm doing opening songs here in this series where they were a group that became so well known for a very particular type of sound, pioneers in like sort of the glam rock movement. Again, very, very alternative music for the early 1970s. Did it exceptionally well. I mean, arguably did it better than maybe anybody else, arguably, because there were a lot of other great glam rock bands and alternative bands around in the early 70s as well. But these guys did that so well, and then towards the end of their career, and this is right at the end, they had moved into this very polished, radio-friendly, commercial, smooth direction, and totally aced that as well. Did it so well, writing songs here on this record in particular that I think some of them stand amongst the very best work that they put out, and that includes their early 70s peak, if you will, as well. But they were a strong group throughout their entire discography. But I do have a lot of love for this album, and I have a lot of love for this song. So this was a group who have a lot of great opening tracks. So with me in part one explaining that I'm only choosing one track per artist or band, it was tricky here for me to choose which song from this band I wanted to have in my 100 because I love the band so much, and then it was a case of where it was going to get ranked. So that'll happen a few times during this series, but this song for me in particular, I've got a lot of emotional connection to it. That always plays a big part in my rankings and why I choose things. So the song I went for is More Than This. The band that I've been describing is Roxy Music, and the album is Avalon. And that is a gorgeous, gorgeous photograph. I've always loved that photograph. Really, really have. And it's just a brilliant, brilliant album, this one. So More Than This, yeah, I mean, it's one of those songs, like I mentioned, it's smooth. I think it's a great song to listen to at night time. Brian Ferry's vocal on it is just, I think it's one of his very, very best. I mean, he had some great vocal performances throughout his career, and I do love his more sort of hiccupy, jittery, affected style, you know, with the early Roxy stuff. But when he just went into that kind of crooning stage of his career as well, you know, the very sort of smooth look that he went for, you know, the tuxedos and everything, and you know, always just looking like he was about to go to, you know, the most sort of sophisticated dinner party in town. I love that part of him as well, and he could do it as well as anybody. And More Than This is just one of those songs that I think it's just a great example of, you know, the music, the words, the vocal performance, the production techniques on it, everything just coming together in a really, really perfect way. And it was a great, you know, great hit for the band. Very famously used, I thought, to I would say certainly memorable artistic effects in the song, in the film Lost in Translation as well, where Bill Murray performs it on karaoke. And, you know, again, hearing it in that context within that film, you know, when I first watched that film a long, long time ago, I remember again thinking what a brilliant choice by Sofia Coppola for her to use that song in that moment. So it is just one of those timeless tracks for me. It's just something that when I listen to it, I just appreciate it. I admire it. Great chorus to it. All the band, as I mentioned before, are just all pulling in the right direction and all excelling with their contributions as well. So yeah, if you're looking for just a really, really lovely early 80s song, you know, pop rock song, something just to chill to, then please do listen to More Than This, and please do listen to the full album, Avalon by Roxy Music. Okay. So coming up next, then we are, yeah, we're in the 80s for all of these up until the very last pick of this part, where we're going to the early 90s. So yeah, we're staying in the 80s for a bit now. So we're up to 1985. Here's another group that I would say that over the course of their brilliant, brilliant career, they sort of smoothed out maybe some of their more sharper, angular edges as their career progressed, but still continued to retain, you know, that quirkiness, those idiosyncrasies that just made them the astonishing group that they were. You know, these guys are just art rock par excellence. So this track here for me has a lot of jangle to it, quite R.E.M.ish, I would say, which, you know, is always a good thing for me. And arguably, I'm just going to put it out there, arguably, it might be the greatest alternative pop rock song of the 80s to have been written about levitation. So a little bit of a clue there. So the song I'm talking about is And She Was. The band is Talking Heads, and the album is Little Creatures. There we go. So very, very super colourful artwork there. And look at that. Look at those for outfits. Absolutely brilliant. So yeah, I've got Chris Frantz here, Jerry Harrison, of course, formerly the Modern Lovers as well, David Byrne, and the absolutely brilliant Tina Weymouth. There we go. So, and she was. So yeah, I've already given a little bit of spiel about it, you know, the lyrical theme of it. Yeah, there is some R.E.M. jangle to it, I think anyway, and I love the bit at the end, right at the very end of the song, where there's sort of like quite rocky, some rocky guitar chords come into it. But again, quite similar, I suppose, to the King of Rock and Roll, by Prefab Sprout. I just feel it's like one of those really perfect alternative pop rock songs that it just sticks in your head. I would say like Birdhouse in Your Soul by They Might Be Giants, would be one of those songs as well. There's just something really off kilter about it, but something that's immediately accessible as well. It's quite a brilliant formula when you can make it work to kind of retain all of your artistic endeavors and I suppose the things that make you unique, but then still compose something that is going to have mass appeal to it as well. And She Was, did very well, Talking Heads. So yeah, that's why I wanted it in. Again, another band with some great opening tracks on their albums, but this song in particular, I do again have great memories of listening to this as a kid. My brother-in-law's family, his brother was a big Talking Heads fan, and he used to play this song an awful lot, and She Was. And I just remember always being really, really taken by David Byrne's vocal style on it. Again, the music to me is just very, very pleasing. It's just got that lovely combination of jangle, and it's just got enough kind of strangeness to it going on that always keeps me invested and interested. So yeah, that had to be in there. But again, it was where it was gonna get ranked. So please do check out And She Was by Talking Heads if you're maybe new to the group or you're still exploring maybe their earlier stuff. They're all amazing albums, of course, but this one here from 1985 I think is a very strong album as well. Okay, so we've just got three left to go then. Okay, so this group here, I think are quite similar to Talking Heads, actually. I do think there's similarities there. And, from similar areas, obviously, Talking Heads coming out of New York. I think these guys, I think they were from New Jersey. I think I'm not going to hang my hat on that one because I don't want to be saying something incorrectly, but certainly from the East Coast anyway. I'm sure Jesse, who tunes into me, can confirm this for me. So thanks in advance, Jesse, for doing that for me, please. I think they're from New Jersey though. So these guys, this was an absolutely brilliant album. Came out in 1980. I discovered this one when working in a record shop because I was drawn immediately to the beautiful front cover. I always thought it was a beautiful cover anyway, sort of pastel drawing of the group. So people by now will no doubt know who I'm talking about. And I remember just finding the cover in the shop, finding that aesthetically pleasing, sticking the music on, and just being completely blown away by how good it was. Again, lots of quirk to it, lots of personality, and another very distinctive vocalist as well. Like I feel like in this part in particular, the likes of Jeff Mangum, David Byrne, Darren Hayman, we've discussed some pretty distinctive vocalists, or I should say I've presented some pretty distinctive vocalists, and this chap here, Glenn Mercer, is no exception either. I believe it is Glenn who sings vocals on this one, as there is another vocalist in this group as well. So the band is the Feelies. The album is called Crazy Rhythms. There's that lovely artwork I was telling you about that drew me in to go and give the group a listen. And the song, it's a bit of a mouthful, this opening song, the track. It's called The Boy with the Perpetual Nervousness. There you go. And it is an absolutely brilliant, brilliant song. So, the album is called Crazy Rhythms. So you do get right from the get-go with this opening track some very, very interesting percussive elements on the song, The Boy with the Perpetual Nervousness. Got Anton Fire, I think it's Anton Fia, to thank for that. He's on the drum kit and on percussion duties, but the other members also had percussive contributions as well. So we've got Bill Million, the aforementioned Glenn Mercer, and then Keith D'Annunzio as well. So they're all clattering away, and they're all coming up with some truly crazy rhythms, but very, very listenable crazy rhythms. I should add that. Rhythms and use of percussion that really elevates these songs. But The Boy with the Perpetual Nervousness in particular, I would say again, although these guys were before the Violent Femmes, I'm sure were an influence on the Violent Femmes. I would venture that. I'm sure that they probably were. Again, quite a nasal sort of vocal style to Glenn Mercer. Very, very distinctive. The lyrics are clever. They're smart, witty. I'm always drawn to that sort of lyric. I suppose storytelling style I've mentioned before, narratives, things that's got something to say, lyrics which take a little bit of an unexpected turn. I'm always there for that. So these lyrics do always make me smile, and quite odd but also intriguing as well. So if you are intrigued by the Feelies, by this record that I'm holding up, if it's one that maybe you've not listened to for a long time, then please do go back and give it a listen. And I'm sure that for people who have been into this group for many years, I'm sure they will appreciate and would agree that, The Boy with the Perpetual Nervousness is a really great, strong opening track. Just love the guitar work on it in particular as well. But for me, it's the percussive elements that sort of rule the roost on that track. Okay, so we've got two more left to go through. So next band here then, hailed from Athens, Georgia. Big clue. Big clue might be the only clue that some of you will need who are watching me. And people who've tuned into me for a while know how much I adore this group. This is my favourite album by this band as well. Again, lots of good, strong opening tracks, but this was an easy one for me. And I just went for it. So the album is Murmur from 1984. The band is, of course, R.E.M. and the opening track is Harborcoat. And I just cannot say enough things about this opening track. I mean, if I was going to talk about the album, I'd be here all day because it's one of my absolute all-time favourites. Adore this record. For me, without doubt, R.E.M's favourite best album. If you disagree with that, then please do let me know in the comments. I always enjoy, getting into discussions in the comment section. And please do comment as well on other bits and pieces I've shown here today. I'm always keen to know what other people are thinking and feeling. So why is Harborcoat so great? Well, it just kicks off a stunning album in a really, really positive, up-tempo way. I'm going to show this side here for a while because I'm going to be talking about the band members. Always loved Michael Stipe's vocal delivery on it. Not quite as mumbled as perhaps he was on Murmur. There was a lot of murmuring going on Murmur. He's a little bit clearer. Still not, crystal clear, but he's getting a little bit clearer. But still just enough murmur or mumble to keep things enigmatic. Love the drum work by Bill Berry throughout. Mike Mills here is the unsung hero on this track. His bass playing on it is superb, and I love all of the additional vocal contributions. Some of it's in the background and some of it is kind of up center and front alongside Michael Stipe. They just had that whole call and response thing going on throughout their entire career. I've always wondered if that was maybe something that they took from the B-52s, who I know obviously not only were from the same area as R.E.M, but were big influences on this band. So I've always loved how in some ways Stipe and Mills worked similarly to the way that Cindy Wilson and Kate Pearson operated in the B-52s. Just a theory I'm throwing out there. I don't know if there's any weight to that, but I do love how they always complemented each other in that way. And then we have got another one of my absolute guitar heroes here, one of mine. I love this guy so much. Massive influence on my playing. We got Peter Buck. So within Harborcoat, it's just a jangle pop dream. Jangle rock greatness for any guitarist, any music appreciator that is just into pure jangle with an 80s touch. A little bit fiery, a little bit sped up, a bit punked up from maybe something like the Byrds. Then this song is for you. Some of his arpeggios here by Buck are just absolutely brilliant. He's all over the fretboard. But my favourite part of the whole song is right on the very, very final chorus. Buck's guitar just audibly swooshes up in volume. So he's still playing the same parts that he's playing throughout, but the volume of it just suddenly kicks up from nowhere. And it's almost just like the guitar part like bursting into life. So the guitar parts have been there throughout the whole track, but then on that very final triumphant chorus by Stipe and Mills singing away, when there's Berry keeping the beat, Buck's bit just goes wham like that. And every time I hear that, it just, it really does get me there, and it gets the hairs upon on my arms and everything, because it's just such a joyous piece of guitar playing, and it's just great jangle, sounds wonderful, fantastic stuff. So yeah, Harborcoat for me had to be in here in my top 100, and what an absolutely amazing album that is, Reckoning by R.E.M. It's from 1984. Okay then, so finishing us off then today, I am just going to double check. Yeah, so we're on 71. So this is my 71st pick of the 100. Then, of course, when we get to part 4, it'll be 70 up to 61. So this one here is from 1991. Love this album to bits. Don't listen to it as much as I used to do, but I listened to it an awful lot when I was in my teens. I mean, it was pretty much on regular rotation, and I'm sure a lot of my mates were listening to this thing an awful lot as well. So it was a Mercury Music Prize winner, and it was a seminal album within the whole acid rock, acid house. Sorry, I should say acid house, alternative rock. Indie, whatever you want to call that side of things. This album was there. And definitely one of the most iconic front covers in music history as well. So I'm now talking about Screamadelica. That's the album. The band, of course, is Primal Scream, and the opening track on this brilliant album is Moving On Up. There we go. A truly superb landmark album, this one. So this one is a gatefold. So as is customary here in the Vinyl Sanctuary, if I ever have a gatefold, I do show it off. So let's just see there. I think it's the only gatefold that I had today, which is quite unusual. So of my picks there. So there we go. Hopefully you can see that all right with the ring light. There you go. Turned it there on an angle. You can see that a bit better. So yeah, moving on up. What do I say about it as an opening track? So again, a brilliant mood setter. It's very Stonesy in influence, very bluesy. That lovely, very Keith Richards-esque, opening guitar riff, strumming away. That's Andrew Innes there on that rhythm guitar part, pretty sure it is. And then, you got Bobby Gillespie coming in with, again, very memorable lyrics. I was blind, I was blind, now I can see. You made a believer out of me. So it's very euphoric in terms of it's an uplifting song. It's joyous. It's talking about, it happens a lot in music. It's kind of like the point of realization. Seeing the light, that type of thing. It's kind of I was in the darkness, and now I'm moving on up into a brighter state. That type of thing. So very uplifting, very universal message that everybody could get on board with, and certainly for this type of music at the time it came out. With the whole rave culture and everything that was at its height at this time. It's the type of song that you want to be hearing on a night out. It's the type of song that you want to be listening to getting ready for a night out, which I did many times when I was, going out clubbing and stuff. This record would go on a lot, and this opening track would definitely get me in the mood, which is no doubt one of the reasons why I've got it ranked where I have within my top 100, because it is a superb song. It really is. And alongside that kind of bluesy, Stonesy influence that's in it, there's a lot of gospel in there as well. So again, which gives it that very uplifting, euphoric feel. So there's two people in particular now that I want to talk about regarding this song. Sadly, both no longer with us, but huge contributors. I can't even think of this song without thinking of these two individuals. So the first that I want to mention is the amazing vocal contributions by Denise Johnson. She is she was, I should say, a powerhouse of a singer, does an incredible job on Moving On Up. Her vocal contributions throughout Primal Scream, as a whole, within her tenure in the group, certainly on this record, on this song, are just amazing, like truly amazing. Just backing up Bobby Gillespie in a way that only Denise Johnson could do, elevating this song to legendary status. So she has to be mentioned and warranted, and full respect and kudos to what she brought to the table. But also the other person that I want to mention as well is the amazing Martin Duffy, who's on piano duties. So Martin Duffy's playing on here. It's got a real swagger and a groove to it. Complements the guitar parts brilliantly, the percussive elements as well. So Duffy's guitar in it, Duffy's piano in it is just brilliant. Really, really strong. He was always a great player. Bit of a prodigy. He'd made his mark initially in the band Felt, who I absolutely adore. And then when Felt folded, after Lawrence brought Felt to an end, then Martin Duffy then went on to be in Primal Scream. So I really want to make sure that both Denise Johnson and Martin Duffy get their due whenever this band are discussed. And certainly, a song like Moving On Up, because their contributions were just absolutely essential to the incredible songs and the music that we all get to enjoy and appreciate as fans, and for all the years to come and to follow. So there we go. I think that's a lovely way to finish part 3. Moving On Up by Primal Scream. The album is Screamadelica. Please do give that one a listen if you've not heard it before. Yeah, a great album of its type, and an absolutely essential landmark album of the early 1990s and beyond. Okay, so that's part 3 then done. So if you are still with me, thank you very, very much indeed for still being with me. I really, really appreciate it. Really means a lot. So please do get involved in the comments section. Let me know what you thought of those picks. I will get to part 4 as soon as I'm able to. And you'll have the next 10 songs in my top 100, all ranked, of course, that I'll be talking about and, giving my explanations as to why they're there and, why those songs mean so much to me. But please do get involved. Let me know what your top hundreds would be. It's been so lovely to already have a number of people taking part. But if you're playing catch up, with the channel, with the series, there's still time. There's always time, no pressure to get involved. And even if you just want to give me a few of your favourites, opening tracks, doesn't have to be a whole 100. However many you want to do, or if you don't want to contribute and you just want to comment in general, then that's all perfectly cool and fine as well. I'm always grateful for people tuning in, and I'm always grateful for people reaching out and letting me know what they think of what I've done. So if you're new to the channel, just overall, and you have enjoyed what I've done today, then I would really appreciate it if you would consider putting a like on the video, hitting the thumbs up. That really does mean a lot to me, and it does help the channel and the video, to perform and to do well, and for people to have a better chance of seeing it. And also, if you would like to continue to see what I'm doing here at the Vinyl Sanctuary, and you want to join me in taking refuge in records, then please do consider subscribing to the channel as well. So if you do that, then please don't forget to hit the notification bell, and that will give you all the notifications and updates as to when I've got content landing. And again, for anyone who chooses to subscribe to me, thank you so much for doing that. That really does mean a lot. Okay then, so until next time, it's been brilliant doing that again. I had a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it, and I will be back as soon as I can. But look after yourselves, look after each other. Enjoy the sunshine, enjoy the weather wherever it is that you happen to be in the world right now. I hope that the sun is out for you and that you're all doing well. And I'll be back again soon. So bye for now.